Welcome back to Obscurus Gaming, and today I wanted to take a look at 10 games for the GameCube that I think deserve a second chance on the Nintendo Switch 2 using the new Gamecube Classics feature. Based on the history of what actually gets selected to the Switch Online service, these are games that are either developed or published by Nintendo themselves, so they have a much better chance to be added to the service. So all the games here fit that description. Let's take a look. Up first is Wario World, which for featuring one of the most widely known Nintendo characters is actually a relatively lesser known game. Wario is much better known for those micro mini games, but this 3D platforming game is a decent experience that did not sell all that well on the GameCube. Adding it to the Switch Online service makes perfect sense, and I think a ton of people would enjoy getting to play as Wario for a change of pace, especially for those who only grew up with the 3D Mario games from the Wii generation on. Next on my list is the Nintendo Puzzle Collection, a Japanese exclusive that was never released in North America, so now would be as good of a time as any. It features 3 upgraded versions of puzzle games released by Nintendo over the years: Dr. Mario, Yoshi's Cookie, and Tetris Attack, which is very similar to the N64 game Pokemon Puzzle League. Basically, this collection is a spruced up version of those 3 games, adding 4-player multiplayer and presentation elements. Battalion Wars is up third, and this is the real-time tactics game that got a somewhat lukewarm reception when it was released, but managed to still sell about 500,000 copies. It is basically a 3D tactics version of Advance Wars, and Nintendo really wanted the franchise to succeed that a sequel got made for the Wii a couple years later. Considering it is highly unlikely Nintendo will dive back into this franchise, it would be nice to see it get a second run here on the Switch too. Custom Robo is next, a game that I think a lot of people look back fondly upon, but the GameCube version did not sell all that well and was not well received at the time. It was the first in the franchise released outside of Japan, I think, so that probably had a lot to do with it, but considering there has not been a new game in the franchise for almost 20 years, it should definitely get a second look, and maybe there would be enough interest to garner a new game. I'm sure Nintendo can track playtime data for this stuff, so I bet they could use the Switch Online service to see maybe which of these GameCube franchises and IPs could get another game down the road, maybe for the Switch too. Just something to think about. Up next is Starfox Adventures, a game with a really weird development history which I won't get into here, but by far the best known game on this list. It also remained the only Rare game released to the GameCube, as the company was purchased by Microsoft shortly afterwards. Because of all the Rare games released to the Nintendo 64 Switch Online service already, I do think Starfox Adventures makes perfect sense here and an interesting legacy piece in Nintendo's history. Next on my list is Chibi-Robo, a game that has already been confirmed by Nintendo to be coming to the service later this year, but just not at launch. It was kind of a one-off in the 3D platforming era and became a little obscure to the point where it is a very expensive game to pick up today, at least the North American version. It is honestly the perfect candidate for this reason, being as not too many people played it back in the day, and it's way better than its lifetime sales might indicate. Up Up next is Kururin Squash, another Japanese exclusive that was never released stateside. This is a puzzle action game with a constantly spinning ship of sorts, where your goal is to cross the finish line as quickly as possible without hitting any walls. Now, the Game Boy Advance version was released to Switch Online previously, so I think this one has a decent chance to make the cut, even if again it never made it to North America in the first place. Up next is probably the weirdest game ever released for the GameCube, and that is Odama. This is a voice-controlled pinball battle game, and I would need to make a whole nother video just to kind of explain how it works. It is imperfect in a lot of ways, but once you get the concept, it is such a unique gaming experience that I would love to see it again here. I don't know if Nintendo can replicate the GameCube microphone that the original used, but I have to imagine it is a possibility on the new console. Up next is Geist, a game I know very little about but was always kind of curious about, and Nintendo themselves did publish it. It's a first-person shooter for the most part with some twists, mainly that you can play as a ghost that can possess other bodies to fight enemies. It is a cool concept and maybe a little ahead of its time, but again, I personally never played it growing up, and based on its sales, hardly anyone else did either. And last on my list, and this is a bit of a personal choice, is Wave Race Blue Storm, the wonderful sequel to Wave Race 64. The main reason I think this should make the cut is we already know F-Zero GX is coming to Switch Online at launch, and we also know Kirby Air Ride is getting a sequel to the Switch 2 later this year, so why not have Nintendo's other racing IP, Wave Race, get an appearance on the service. So yeah, there you have it guys, my 10 picks for GameCube games that deserve a second chance on the Nintendo Switch 2. Obviously, this is just my opinion, so anyways, what am I missing? Leave a comment, and what would you like to see come to Switch Online? Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you next time.